Introduction. Every curtain hides a shadow. But what if the shadow remembers you? My name is Lena. I'm a 24-year-old artist who just moved into my first solo apartment, one of those older, creaky buildings on the edge of the city, where the wallpaper peels like skin and the ceiling fans groan louder than they spin. Rent was cheap. That should have been a warning. It started with the curtain. I remembered the day I first moved in. The living room had floor-length vintage curtains made of velvet, dusty and thick, too thick for modern apartments. My landlord, Mr. Coven, was very specific about one thing. Don't take down the curtains in the living room. They came with the place. I didn't question it at first. But the first night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me from behind them. I'd turn off the lights and retreat to my room, only to hear a soft shuffle, like feet dragging across the floor. I convinced myself it was my imagination. A creaky old place, sure, I'd get used to it. But you don't get used to breathing that isn't yours. The first week was relatively normal. I painted during the day and watched horror YouTube videos at night, my guilty comfort. Odd, I know, considering what was coming. The room behind the curtain always felt heavy, the way you feel when someone's staring at the back of your head. My cat Momo refused to go near the window. He'd sit at the hallway entrance and hiss softly, tail puffed like a bottle brush. One night, I saw her. It was just past 3:12 a.m. Yes, I remember the exact time. I had gone to the kitchen for water and walked past the living room when I noticed a small movement. The curtain, unmoving for days, now gently swayed. There was no fan on, no window open. Just as I leaned to peek behind it, a pale face appeared. Not next to the curtain. Not behind it, inside it, pressed like it was part of the fabric, eyes too big, mouth open in a silent scream. The fabric moved with her features, and then, just as suddenly, it was gone. Flat velvet again. I didn't sleep that night. I tried calling friends, told myself it was a trick of the light, sleep deprivation, trauma memory resurfacing. But deep down, I knew that curtain held something, someone. And she remembered me.
Chapter 1. The Smile in the Fabric. I tried to convince myself it was stress, maybe even a hallucination. I hadn't slept much, and my caffeine intake could raise the dead. But deep down, I knew what I saw. That face. That mouth, that smile, too wide, like it was stitched into her skull. The next morning, I tried to go on like nothing happened. I made coffee, fed Momo, and opened my sketchbook. But all I could draw were curtains. Curtains and that face, over and over. Then something weird happened. I tried to tear the page out, and it wouldn't rip. The paper stretched like rubber. When I finally yanked it, I swear I heard a whisper. Soft, inhuman, just one word. Lena. I froze. Nobody knew I lived here yet. My family was distant. I hadn't even updated my address online. And Momo? He was hiding under the couch, refusing to come out. The smell of dust and death. I decided to check the curtain again. It was still. No breeze, no movement. Then I saw it. A slight bulge in the middle, like a knee pressing into the fabric. I slowly reached out, pulled the curtain open, and there was nothing behind it. No window, no wall, just more curtain. The material didn't end. It looped, twisted, and folded like a tunnel made of velvet. I took a step inside, just one. It was cold. The air smelled like mildew and something older, like the attic of a church that hasn't been opened in decades. I reached my hand out further. Something grabbed my wrist. I screamed and yanked my hand back. My wrist had a red handprint on it, small and childlike, but burning hot. I stood, shaking, staring at the curtain as it slowly stopped swaying. Later that day, I tried to Google the building. No major history, just the kind of place where people came and went, until I found an old forum thread from 2011. The post was simple. Anyone ever live in 27B? I swear there's a girl in the curtain. The account was deleted. Dreams of drowning. That night, I had a dream. I was 7 again, back in my childhood home. There was a white curtain by the window in my bedroom. It started twisting, wrapping around my neck. I tried to scream, but the fabric filled my mouth. When I woke up, I was gasping for air. There were threads of fabric in my mouth. Red, velvet threads. And on the wall near the curtain was a fresh smile, drawn in blood. Not mine. The old woman upstairs. The next morning, I had enough. I went upstairs to talk to my neighbor, a 70-something woman named Mrs. Dolan, who wore slippers like clouds and smelled like eucalyptus and menthol. She answered the door slowly. When I mentioned my apartment number, her face drained. 27B? She whispered. That unit should have stayed sealed. She told me about a girl named Mara who lived in my unit in the early 2000s. Quiet, artistic, lived with her mother. Then one day, they both vanished. No goodbye, no moving truck, just gone. 2 weeks later, a strange stench came from the unit. When the landlord broke in, it was empty. Except for one thing. The curtain, she said, it was breathing. I asked her what she meant by that. Mara didn't vanish. She became part of it. The sketch that drew itself. When I got home, my sketchbook was open on my desk. I hadn't left it that way. And there was a new page drawn, but I hadn't touched it. It was me, standing in front of the curtain. A face was reaching through, smiling, behind me. I turned around, heart hammering. The curtain was still, but now it was smiling.
Chapter 2. The Hollow in the Wall. The next morning, I tried to leave the apartment. I needed to breathe, to feel sun on my skin, real people, traffic, noise. But when I turned the knob on my front door, it didn't move. I tried the lock, it clicked, but the door wouldn't open. I pounded on it. Nothing, not even an echo. Even Momo hissed and ran into the bathroom, where he stared at the wall behind the mirror like it whispered to him. Something had changed. The air was heavy, charged. My apartment no longer felt like an apartment. It felt like a container. And the curtain? It fluttered again, even though the windows were shut. A wall that shouldn't exist. I walked back into the living room and noticed something new. On the right side of the curtain, just where the corner met the wall, there was a seam I'd never seen before. A thin, vertical line. Curious, I pressed my hand against it. It echoed. I knocked. Hollow. Impossible. That wall was supposed to be shared with the neighboring unit, but something inside me knew it wasn't. Not anymore. I fetched a box cutter and began peeling the paint and drywall back. The more I cut, the colder the air became. Soon, I'd uncovered a rotting wood panel with a small hatch built into it, sealed with rusted nails and a carved symbol I didn't recognize. A spiral with 3 downward arrows. It pulsed. When I touched the wood, I heard it again, that same voice from before. Lena. I couldn't open the hatch, not yet, so I documented it, I sketched it, and every time I glanced at the curtain, it felt closer. Not physically, spiritually, psychologically. I couldn't stop thinking about the girl, Mara.
Who was she? What happened to her? I dug deeper into online records. Most were scrubbed or deleted, but I finally found an archived blog post from 2006, written by a young woman named Andrea M., a former tenant. She wrote, "I lived in 27B for 5 months. I heard singing, soft, like a lullaby. When I peeked behind the curtain, I saw a little girl made of dust. She asked me to help her, and then she smiled. I left the next day, the girl was still smiling, even after I closed my eyes." Andrea disappeared 6 months later. The bleeding wall. That night, I dreamed again. I was in the apartment, but it was upside down. The curtains were the floor. The ceiling was made of mirrors. I stood on the velvet and I could see something moving beneath it, like bodies crawling underneath the surface. Then I heard scratching. I woke up to Momo clawing at the wall next to the hatch. There was blood. Thin trails of dark red dripping from the seams. Not fresh, but not old either. It was weeping. The wall was weeping blood. I had to open it. The hatch opens. I got a hammer and crowbar from the building's maintenance closet. I didn't care if the landlord got mad. He should have warned me. With each nail I removed, the air grew colder. Momo howled from the kitchen and refused to move. When the hatch finally opened, it didn't lead to pipes or wires. It opened into a small wooden tunnel, about the size of a crawl space. Inside was nothing, at first, but as my eyes adjusted, I saw it. A tiny dress, rotting and child-sized, laid out neatly on a bed of dust and crumbled wallpaper. Next to it, a human skull, cracked and small. The socket still had a bit of matted hair. I screamed. Then I saw the message written in charcoal on the inside wall of the hatch. "She lives in the curtain now." Burn it all. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to burn the curtain. That felt like the right answer. I poured lighter fluid on it, lit a match, threw it. Nothing. The flame vanished in the air, like it had been snuffed out by something invisible, and then the curtain twitched, like mocking me. That night, I heard the voice again, closer this time. "I see you now." The face appears in the mirror. As I washed my hands, I looked in the bathroom mirror and saw 2 faces, mine and hers. The girl, Mara, standing behind me, pale, smiling. Her eyes were stitched shut. Her mouth opened and whispered, "You found my body. Now find my soul." Then she disappeared. I screamed again. The mirror cracked. Blood leaked from the edges.
Chapter 3. The Body in the Curtain. I didn't sleep. Not after seeing Mara's face in the mirror. I sat on the couch, knees to my chest, staring at the curtain as if it might move again. It did. Not a sway this time. It pulsed. Like a lung, a breathing lung made of fabric. The velvet moved in and out, and I swear I heard something beating behind it. Slow, steady, like a heart. That's when the smell returned. The stench of rot. The scent of an old coffin left open in the rain. Then I heard crying. The girl cries at night. It started as a whisper. A small, dry sob. It echoed from behind the curtain. "Mama?" I froze. "Mama, it's so dark." I wanted to run. Every part of me screamed, "Go!" But my feet stayed glued. I walked to the curtain again, hand trembling. This time, I didn't reach for it. I just whispered, "Mara?" The crying stopped. The curtain snapped outward like a wave of wind exploded from it, knocking me back into the wall. My nose bled, my ears rang. Momo ran under the fridge and wouldn't come out. When I got up, the curtain was still again. Except now, a footprint was visible in the middle. A child's footprint, burned into the fabric. Visions from the past. I started seeing things.
even when the curtain wasn't moving. In the bathroom mirror, in my sketches, in the TV static, Mara's face, her smile, her twisted little hands pressing into the curtain from the inside. I saw her standing next to me in my reflection. I started drawing her without realizing it. One night, I woke up to find my arm moving on its own, sketching with a charcoal pencil in the dark. When I turned the light on, the drawing showed a woman on fire, holding a little girl, both of them screaming. Behind them, the curtain, and inside it, something much bigger, not human. It had eyes, too many, all of them sewn shut. The phone call. At 2:42 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Static. Then a voice. You opened the wall. Now the curtain wants you too. Click. I tried to call back. The number didn't exist. I wanted to leave. I packed a bag, grabbed Momo, and tried to open the door again, still stuck. This time, the walls began to whisper. All 4 walls. They whispered in sync, the same phrase over and over. The curtain is her skin. The curtain is her skin. The curtain is her skin. The ritual in the floorboards. Desperate, I tore up the floor. Beneath the boards, I found something that made my stomach twist. A circle carved into the foundation. Symbols like the ones on the hatch. Spirals, arrows, needles. In the center, a small, blackened doll, burned and melted, wrapped in what looked like human hair. I touched it and screamed. It was hot, burning, but there was no flame. Then the curtain began to hum, low, deep, the sound of a cello playing inside a coffin. I ran back to the hatch, I reached inside, and found a second jawbone, not child-sized, adult. Blood on the ceiling. The next day, I found something written on the ceiling in blood. 27B was never just an apartment. It stretched across the whole ceiling like it had been painted by someone crawling on their back. And beneath it, right above the curtain, a handprint. Small, red, upside down. She wears my skin. That night, I had the worst dream of all. I stood in front of the curtain. It opened like a mouth. Inside, she waited. Not the child. Not Mara. Something bigger. It wore her body like a costume, but the seams were wrong. The skin sagged. The eyes were hollow. Its mouth unhinged, and it climbed out of the curtain like a spider made of flesh and hair. It whispered, "You look soft. I want to wear you next." I woke up screaming. My own hands were around my neck. The cat's warning. Momo wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep. One night, he stood at the hallway and howled. Long, primal, like something in him remembered death. He looked at the curtain and hissed so violently, he lost fur. Then he turned and ran into the wall, hard. I wept. Something inside the curtain was killing him, killing me, but it wasn't over yet.
Perfect. Here's the next chapter in the horror tale. Part 2, main story, chapter 4. The curtain opens. Word count, approximately 4,000 words. Theme, crossing into the other side. Haunted memories. Revelation of Mara's spirit and what her fate really was. Chapter 4. The curtain opens. The walls bled every night now. Not metaphorically, literally. Thin rivulets of dark red leaked from the ceiling corners and down the window frames. I'd wipe it away, only for it to return an hour later. My reflection wouldn't match my movements anymore. Momo had stopped eating. He lay in the closet all day, trembling. I was next. That's when the curtain spoke. Not whispered, spoke. "Come in, Lena. I remember you." The voice wasn't childlike anymore. It was many voices, layered together, as if stitched into one. Feminine, masculine, ancient. The voices knew my name and something else. They knew me. A portal of flesh. I stood in front of the curtain. No more running. I had to know. I reached out and pulled it open, and this time it didn't end. Behind the curtain wasn't a window, not a wall, not drywall or bricks. It was a hole. Not black, not dark, flesh-colored, pulsing. A tunnel made of skin and ribs, threads like veins stitched the walls. I could hear something breathing, crying, whispering, calling. I stepped inside. The world behind the curtain. The air behind the curtain wasn't air at all. It was wet, humid, and thick, like inside a throat. Each step echoed like walking on stretched leather. The tunnel narrowed, then widened again. I turned a corner, and there she was. Mara, or what used to be her. She stood barefoot in a tattered dress, hair covering her face, but her body, it was stitched to the wall, like a puppet caught in a web. Her limbs were stretched outward, sewn to the fleshy curtain with red thread. Her head slowly lifted, eyes sewn shut, mouth sewn open, and from her throat came a voice I recognized. My mother's. "You left me behind, Lena, just like she did." Memory warping. Suddenly, I wasn't in the tunnel anymore. I was in my childhood bedroom. The white curtain by the window flapped violently. My mother was yelling at me, face red with fury. "Stop lying, Lena. You're too old for imaginary friends." Behind her, I saw Mara, standing, waiting. She smiled. I blinked and I was back in the curtain realm. Mara was still stitched to the wall, but something else moved behind her. A tall figure, made of curtain. Its face was a swirl of mouths. Eyes blinked from its chest. It leaned forward and whispered, "You opened the door. Now you live here." The sewing ritual. In the center of the chamber was a stone table. On it, sewing needles, rusted thread, bones, a scalpel. Mara's hands reached toward it, trembling. I watched her slowly pick up a needle and begin sewing her own lips shut again. I screamed. She paused. Her stitched eyes opened, ripped open with tearing sound. Inside them was darkness, a void. Then she whispered with her mind, "She made me beautiful. Now she wants your skin." The curtain behind her rippled. From it crawled a second figure. Me, but stitched, dead-eyed, smiling too wide. It looked at me and said, "She's almost done sewing me." The mark on my body. I turned to run, but the tunnel shifted. It breathed, rearranged. When I looked down, I saw that my own feet were fading. Threads of red were sewing over my ankles. My skin was being replaced, velvet threading stitched upward. I fell to the ground, screaming, "Get out of me!" From the wall, Mara's voice rang out, not scared this time, but defiant.
Use the bone. I reached for the child's jawbone that I had taken from the hatch. It glowed faintly. I stabbed the thread on my leg. It hissed. The stitching unraveled violently, and the tunnel screamed. The entire realm screamed. The chamber collapsed. The flesh walls started to collapse inward, ripping, peeling like dead skin. I grabbed the jawbone and ran. As I fled, I heard the stitched version of me chasing behind. "You'll never be whole again!" I dove through the entrance, the original curtain, and landed in my apartment, gasping. The curtain slammed shut behind me. Silent. I turned back to the curtain, still, calm. On it, written in ash, "Thank you." Mara's face appeared one last time. No stitches, just peace. Then the curtain turned to dust. So did the wall, the hatch, the blood, everything. Momo came out of the closet, walked to me, and curled up beside me, for the first time in days.